Welcome, everyone, to another true crime story that will keep you up at night. Tonight, we delve into a mystery so chilling, it feels as though it came straight out of a horror movie. But this is no fiction. It's a real-life tragedy, one that still haunts those involved and leaves us with more questions than answers. This is the story of the Peterson family, a seemingly perfect couple whose lives came to a violent and horrific end, while their young child remained blissfully unaware of the nightmare unfolding in the next room. A tragedy that no one saw coming, and a crime that's baffled investigators for years. We'll look at the details of the crime, the investigation that followed, the theories that emerged, and the chilling, unanswered questions that linger to this day. What led to this horrific tragedy? Could it have been avoided? And why has justice still not been served? This case begins in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Austin, Texas, known for its family-friendly environment. The Petersons were the type of family you might expect to see in a place like this: middle-class, hardworking, and always active in their community. Henry Peterson was 33 years old, a software engineer who worked for a tech company. He was known to be a loving father, someone who spent his weekends playing soccer with his son Tyler, and was often seen around town, chatting with neighbors. Carla Peterson, 31, was a registered nurse at a local hospital, and by all accounts, she was a compassionate, hardworking woman who loved her job and cared deeply for her family. Tyler, their son, was a typical 9-year-old, energetic, curious, and always glued to his video games. In fact, on the night of the murders, he had been playing his favorite game for hours, seemingly lost in a virtual world while his parents' relationship spiraled into chaos behind closed doors. But it wasn't always smooth sailing for the Petersons. Though they appeared perfect from the outside, there were whispers of trouble beneath the surface. Some neighbors reported overhearing occasional arguments between Henry and Carla, but nothing that seemed out of the ordinary. It was only after the tragedy struck that the true extent of the couple's struggles began to surface. What we would learn over time is that their marriage, while seemingly perfect, was riddled with secrets, hidden tensions, and unresolved conflicts. It was the evening of October 13th, 2017. The air was crisp, and the Peterson household was quiet, with just the sound of video game clicks coming from Tyler's bedroom. Around 9:45 p.m., something triggered an explosive argument between Henry and Carla. Neighbors who lived just a few houses down reported hearing shouting coming from the Petersons' home. But it wasn't unusual. There had been other arguments in the past. What set this one apart, however, was the violence that would erupt moments later. According to police reports, the confrontation escalated quickly. Authorities later theorized that it began as a heated argument, with Carla accusing Henry of something: a betrayal, an affair, or perhaps the mounting financial strain they had been under. What was said that night, we may never know. What we do know is that it didn't take long for the argument to turn physical. Henry and Carla fought fiercely, their anger and frustration spilling over into violence. The crime scene would later reveal that both had been brutally attacked. Henry stabbed in the chest, his body found sprawled on the living room floor, while Carla was found just a few feet away, with stab wounds to her abdomen and throat. The house was a bloodbath. The walls were smeared with red, evidence of the violent struggle that took place. And the chilling detail? Tyler, just rooms away, never heard a thing. Police would later piece together that the struggle likely lasted several minutes. There were signs of a fight in the kitchen. Dishes were broken, and a chair was knocked over. Yet Tyler, a young boy, was never alerted to the commotion. Was it truly possible that he didn't hear the screams, the sounds of the violent altercation? Or was he protecting himself in some way, perhaps hiding in fear or trauma? As the investigation unfolded, the police were left with more questions than answers. There were no signs of forced entry into the home, leading detectives to believe that the killer was someone familiar to the victims, likely someone who had been let into the house willingly. Could this have been an inside job, a crime of passion, or something more planned? The police initially suspected that the deaths might have been the result of a domestic dispute gone horribly wrong. But the brutal nature of the crime raised doubts. Domestic violence rarely manifests in such a savage manner, and with no sign of struggle between the victims and an unknown intruder, the question of motive loomed large. What theories emerged over time? One theory was that the couple's struggles with money, stress, and infidelity played a part in the murder. Henry had admitted to a brief affair with a co-worker in the year prior, and some speculated that Carla had found out. Others believed that this was a premeditated act, with one spouse planning the death of the other. But what really set this case apart from other domestic violence-related killings was the absence of Tyler's involvement or reaction. Could a child, as young as Tyler, truly be unaware of the violent events in the next room? Or was there a possibility that he knew more than he let on? Detectives considered the possibility that Tyler might have witnessed something, but after hours of questioning, he remained consistent in his story. He had been playing games the whole time. As the investigation continued, several people were brought in for questioning, though none became definitive suspects. Henry's ex-girlfriend, who had been in contact with him around the time of the murders, became a person of interest. She had been seen leaving his work one day, a day before the murders. Was there something more to their relationship? Carla's coworkers also raised eyebrows. One nurse who worked with Carla had made a strange comment during an interview, suggesting that Carla had been dealing with more than just stress at home, implying there were dark secrets from Carla's past. Was she involved in something dangerous, something that led to her death? In the days following the murders, rumors circulated that a mysterious phone call had been made from Carla's phone just hours before she died. However, the police could not trace the number, and this lead went cold quickly. Who had Carla been speaking to, and why? Despite all of these potential leads, the police couldn't find any concrete evidence to point toward any one person. The Peterson case left more unanswered questions than most detectives could handle. Why was Tyler so unaware of the screams and violence in his own home? Did he hear something but suppress it, or was his story true? Why was there no evidence of struggle between Henry and Carla, despite the ferocity of the attack? Was this a planned act of revenge, or did something trigger an uncontrollable outburst? And what about the mysterious phone call? Who was on the other end, and why did it seem so important to the investigation? No answers have emerged, and the case remains unsolved. As we close out tonight's story, we're left with the haunting image of a family torn apart by violence, and a child who will forever be affected by the events that transpired behind the walls of his home. The Peterson case remains a mystery, a story of betrayal, passion, and bloodshed. But the biggest question remains: who is responsible for their deaths, and why has no one been held accountable? Could the truth be out there, hidden in plain sight? Or are we simply left with a dark, unsolvable riddle? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the Peterson case. What do you think happened that night? Could it have been the result of a domestic dispute? Or do you have another theory? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future investigations into unsolved mysteries. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, the truth is often darker than we can imagine.